And welcome back yet again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to some more Proving Grounds action. I will be your host for the evening, Ravishing, the most ravishing around the internet, joined here by my side by these two very, very handsome gentlemen. Of course, right beside me, of course, my main man, the illustrious RMC, and beside him even more, esports grandpa, the man with the flow brain, and somebody who I know has more hands than everybody else in the world. That's right there. That's RBM. How we doing, gentlemen? Let's start off with you, RMC.
I'm doing good here, Raf. Feeling a little bit old when you're calling RBM a grandpa. That makes me basically a fossil here. But you know what? Hey, as a minion, my expected lifespan is measured in seconds, so I'm good with that.
That's okay. You know why? Because RBM has more hands than Boot. RBM, how does it feel to be the greatest player of all time?
It feels like another day in the life. How it is.
All right, that's what we like to hear, man. Confidence exuding, the hair flowing, bro. I'm actually just jealous that y'all can just do this and go about your day. I don't know what I've forgotten what that feels like. But enough about me, right? We're here to talk a little bit about the teams that we're about to get into today. So let's talk about the PGCQ tournament that we're all here for, MC.
Right, so this is, of course, the Proving Grounds circuit qualifier here, where all the teams are fighting it out to qualify for the main Proving Grounds tournament, where you'll be facing off against the Academy team. We just had the OQs, the Open Qualifiers, last week. And now we've got our top 16 teams who all have Champions Queue access as well. So if anything, level of competition's gone up. They'll be battling it out here, and they're battling for points. So just because you win this one doesn't necessarily guarantee you move on. You can still make it, even if you're not at the very top.
Which is honestly a phenomenal idea, and I personally have been seeing a lot of the Championship Queue games that I think they've looked a lot more fun. Peyton, quick thoughts on Champions Queue, yay or nay?
I think it'll die soon, but that's like my thought. I mean, it needs some reformations a little bit, but it's like a cool idea, I guess. It's like a glorified in-house server.
Let's go with that. Cool idea is what we want to run with, all right? I think that's where we want to be at for sure, because considering how things have been going so far, and for you joining us just as of right now, I'm sure you might be a little bit confused as to what might be going on. What's going on with BGCQ? How does all this work? Where it all's coming from? Well, don't you worry. We have a small video ready for you guys to go ahead and see, voiced by our very own Jolly on the broadcast. So I'm sure we'll have that up for you in just a couple of seconds, just to get you all situated and understood on what will be going on there. So let's see the video real quick.
Welcome to the Proving Grounds Circuit Qualifier number 2, presented by Unified. 32 teams will face off in a 5-round Swiss Open qualifier to decide who will advance to the 16-team group stage. The Swiss format matches teams with the same record against each other as the rounds progress. Meaning, in round 2, the 1-0 teams will play each other, while the 0-1 teams play each other, and so on. The 16 teams reach 3 wins by the end of round 5 will move on to compete in groups, where they will be seeded based on their records, and play in a best-of-3 double elimination bracket to decide who will advance to the playoffs. The playoffs will be single elim best-of-3 matches up until the grand final best-of-5 series. Teams will earn points based on their overall performance. Here's how the numbers break down. The top 10 amateur teams across the 2 tournaments will qualify for Proving Grounds. Got it? Good. The action starts soon, so make sure you catch all the games at twitch.tv/academy and the Unified Twitch channels. Which of these aspiring champions will rise to the top in 2022? Come see for yourself.
All right, so I hope you guys are caught up in what's going on, right? Like as Jolly said, which of these aspiring champions will rise to the top in 2022? Let's find out, which is exactly why we are here today. It is day number 1, and as you see at the bottom, we do have 2 best-of-3s to start you off, starting off with Immortals AOE going up against Redbird Esports. RMC, quick thoughts on the matchup.
Ooh boy, very interesting one as well. IMT AOE, second place team after we took out GGA, of course, from PGCQ number 1, and Redbird, on the other hand, did not qualify the first time around. And yeah, so definitely a bit of an exciting one, and one where I think Redbirds need to prove themselves a little.
I believe that 100%, right? Redbird have definitely been not super great so far, especially in CLL with the games we've seen. There's a lot of climbing up to do, and AOE have already put down an established foundation, especially alongside Immortals so far. But Peyton, also did want to get your quick thoughts on either one of us series today.
Yeah, I'll bounce off the IMT AOE Redbirds one. I love my collegiate teams, putting it up to amateur. But unfortunately, I think this one might be a little bit too much of a gap. So we'll see.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, right? And as you saw on the schedule already, we do also have 100 Thieves next going up against York Lions as well over on Unified Live, which would be really fun when 100 Thieves have been, you know what? I think 100 Thieves is exactly what describes them the best. But my very own hometown of Toronto, York Lions stepping up today. I'm really excited. I'm like 10 minutes away from the campus. I might go see the games if we have enough time. Might as well. But that's personally just on me though. It's see what's going on. Past all that, considering all the teams that we do have in the tournament, right? We've introduced you to about 4 of them so far, but we want to get to know about how all these things come about, right? Why are we in this group? What's going on here? RMC. So there are points all these teams have, right? How many points is what's really going on here with all of them?
Yeah, so PGCQ 1 already happened, and the points come from both PGCQs. So right here, we do have the current point distribution. Of course, 100 Thieves, next Immortals AOE, like we mentioned, currently topping that chart here. But you'll notice there are some teams which aren't present in this PGCQ number 2, Radiance, Bay State, Supernova, UCI, Ambition, most notably here. So there is a chance for a lot of these teams who are newer to the PGCQ number 2 who qualified this round to try and catch up here. And for the teams that have made the first one and are coming to the second as well, a bigger chance for them to get better seeding, get more points as well.
Indeed, yeah. And which is why we have all the qualifiers, right? Because ultimately all it's leading towards is that Proving Grounds tournament all the way at the end. A chance to realistically and metaphorically and literally prove yourself against some of the best going up in academy and amateur. So you need points to do it. So we'll see if these teams can realistically be able to, do all of that. So which is why we got all these groups here today. We're going forward with Group A, B, and C, and D. We'll be covering Group B all of today with the matches that we have going on. So I hope y'all stay tuned for that, considering it's going to be a really fun time. Now, with all that being said, though, let's finally talk about our matches for today. It's been below you the entire time, right? It's been teased by us already. So RMC, let's start us off with these two teams, because let's dig deep, because it's gonna be a really fun one.
Yeah, and let's start a little bit with IMT AOE here, because they're the team I think more of the viewers will be familiar with. As we said before, they are currently second place in terms of points from PGCQ number 1. A lot of big names on this team here and carries in every single row. Anime Girl, their top laner, and Shochi, their mid laner, a little bit newer to the amateur scene, but have really shown themselves, especially in the OQs as well, really popping off. Meech and Trevor on the bot side, they've been around a little bit longer, but they weren't as high profile. I think they're really breaking out. That bot lane has been absolutely rock solid. And of course, Winston in the jungle position as well, with previous academy experience, really literally spearheading the team, especially when on that Xin Zhao pick, going in aggressively invading or looking for those really early level 2, level 3 gangster lanes.
Which has been phenomenal to see, by the way, him just deciding, you know what, I'm a 3 camping go bot every single time. RBM, I know you're familiar with that, but talk to me about your perspective on Immortals.
Yeah, in this game, I really think the only thing I'm really interested about is Drew Dozer versus Sochi. I think it would be really fun to watch that matchup, personally, because I think both of them are pretty random players. In my own experiences, sometimes both of them are just 1v9 machines, and then other times I have to report them. So I think that'll be by far the most fun matchup of this series for sure. I think ISU might be a little gap too hard in top lane and jungle. I think Winston and Anime Girl are pretty crazy good. Meech and Trevor Roy, I thought if unfortunate circumstances didn't happen, they probably could have been in academy already. Meech is so insanely good, so I really just want to see what happens mid. It could be a fist fight for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with you, considering what we see these teams so far. Trevor Roy, especially, we know him all the way from St. Thomas, playing alongside Array, who's definitely shown up time and time again, and just across the board between Shochi and Drew Dozer. I also understand there's a bit of rivalry going on there too. So this should be a lot of fun. Drew Dozer has been the classic carry in the mid game for Redbird, and this guy plays out of his mind when given the resources. So that mid lane and of course ADC matchup should be a lot of fun. Which, by the way, RMC, I do want to throw to you as well. I know I did mention it just previously, but the ADC matchup as well, I find, is one that we've all been taking a look at for these phenomenal players on both these teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned Array earlier, somebody that Trevor's played alongside, but Meech, a very long-standing partner of Trevor here, and more specifically in PGCQ1 here, Meech had some amazing numbers as an AD carry as well. Third lowest average deaths of all AD carries, third highest KDA because of that, third highest CS per minute as well here. And of course, we get to see this particular clip, which was incredible, right? He's 1v3ing as an AD carry. Meech has been absolutely insane. And when you look across to what ISU want to do, their carries tend to be mid and bot as well. Can Yen really match up to Meech here?
It's quite a predicament, right? Considering how Meech has had some of the most standout performances that we've seen out of this Immortals roster, and we look to him to be one of the biggest carries going towards the mid game as well, which is where Redbird shine. Because RBM, I also want to get your take as well too. Between the top eight so far, where would you find the focus might be for this Immortals team?
I'll actually take the ball lane on that instead.
Sorry,
for sure.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
I'll take the ball lane on the focus for sure. Like, Meech was like the saving grace of Dig Mig back when we had that team, and like he was trying to carry like corpses over that team. And now he has like insane Smurf teammates. Like, I think if you keep the game around him and like the top lane matchup, whatever disconnector name changed to Squilla or something. Squillium. There you go. I think that like he's autofilled. He's like learning the role, but he's actually like cracked at it now. But I don't think he'll be good enough for anime girls. So I think if you keep the game centered around bot lane and Sochi doesn't run it down, like I think it should be really, really good game plan for them today.
All right, I mean, I respect it considering you already mentioned Disconnector, so let's move into our second team of the Redbirds, right? Of course, Disconnector learned the role a little bit. I've seen him on the Gragas quite a fair amount of times, but RMC, your thoughts on the Redbirds? Because, like I've already said, they are a mid-game team, and late game they thrive, but early they might not.
Yeah, I mean, Redbirds, okay, so their late game is really, really good, and it tends to go off their mid and AD carry, like we had previously alluded to a little bit. And let's start with Drew Dozer, because as RBM says, this is the guy who can pop off, or things can go really quickly south with this particular matchup. But I will say, from what I've seen of Drew Dozer, regardless how much of a fiesta the early game is, this man always scales. You can put him on an early game champion, which is rare, and he'll still have impact in the late game as well. His team fighting in particular has been absolutely massive, and we are going to be on patch 12.4 for the rest of this tournament. Corki did get nerfed. If there's a team who's still going to play Corki, I would expect it to be ISU. I would expect it to be Drew Dozer here.
100%, considering his both Corki and Victor like performances too have been stellar. We just saw that there previously on just how much of an impact he can have, and considering when he's on much more of those utility focused mages as well, his team fighting is so beautiful to see. But Bane, coming back with you again on this, right? We see you were talking a little bit about how Disconnector had before. Drew Dozer's a fun guy, but across the board as of right now for ISU, what are you looking at in terms of team comp and how they're performing?
I absolutely love how ISU plays League. I think their identity of how to play League is great, and it's like a collegiate kind of mindset too. It's like, we're gonna pick a really standard, really easy front to back team fight comp. Like this is how, and we're gonna win just by getting to a point in the game where our comp is just better than theirs. And that's how you can like cheese a lot of wins against teams that you are just worse, especially in amateur, because teams like they have more ego and they try to play things that aren't going to just automatically win the game once you reach a certain threshold. And ISU, they stick behind that identity. If they stick behind it today, and IMT makes some mistakes, Sochi maybe runs it down and like Drew Dozer gets an early lead, like it's a win con for sure. And if you stick your identity, you'll have a really good shot of making a huge upset today. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it's considering what we've seen out of them so far, right? If Immortals AOE do give them a little bit of space, going forward in 15 minutes, and things might take a turn for the worse. But across the board of both these teams, they both have really phenomenal players that we can pop off. We were talking a lot about Meech on the other end for Immortals AOE, but Yen, of course, their own ADC on Redbird, right? Hyperlink, scary, on things like the Aphelios, the Jinx, right? Classic stuff, which past 35 4 items, you're all gonna die in the 5v5. But I think that really does stick for both of these teams. But considering how both these teams scale up, right? We're talking a lot about both their sides. Redbird, of course, once they get into the late, it's over, it's GG. We simply will just play better than you. But the question has to be, gentlemen, where do you both lie when it comes to this matchup, right? Where are you thinking that it might potentially swing? So let's get your predictions potentially for today. I'm gonna start off with you, RBM, because I know you were pretty vocal about what's going on before. So what's up with you, man?
I'm taking a 2-0 stomp, unfortunately, after what I did say. I do love how ISU plays League, but there are matchups where you're just outclassed too much for it to really happen. I think Winston versus Gluten Free Panda would be quite the field day for Winston, and he'll be able to snowball the game to the point where ISU won't be able to reach this late game point of, we're going to scale and win team fights eventually. I think the game should end probably like 25, 30 minutes every game, like pretty one-sided.
Damn. Okay, that's wild. Those are some strong words you put it out there, bro. After you were hyping up, Redbird got that unique composition. It's very collegiate.
I love it. I do love it. Yeah, that's the collegiate identity. Like MSU defined that. We made top 8 playing Jinx Zillion every game. Like, and if we made it to 30 minutes, we'd win the game. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work in amateur if the other players are like too good. And I think IMT AOE is just too good.
All right, I mean, respect to you on that. Arms, really break down for me where you're hanging, because like I feel like there might be a bit of a trend here.
Yeah, you know what? I respect where RBM's coming from, and I agree with RBM's coming from here. Unfortunately, IMT AOE, I do think it's a bit of a rough matchup for the Redbirds specifically because they like to scale, because they like to go late, and unfortunately, IMT AOE tend to play really strong early games, especially, like I said before, spearheaded by Winston on those early invades. If Gluten Free Panda, if GFP can't handle those invades early, I'm afraid that unfortunately Redbirds won't get to the late game. And even if they do get to the later game as well, we've talked a lot about Meech being that mainstay force, that ability to carry a team over that finish line, kicking and screaming if he has to. And I'll tell you this much, IMT AOE are not going to be corpses. They're going to be right there with Meech carrying as well. So I'm just... with RBM in this, I think the game will be settled, maybe not completely over by 25 minutes, but it's going to be really tough. If Redbirds can hang on long enough, maybe they have a chance, but they'll need to prove that to me.
I mean, I like that you raised the point about them kicking and screaming potentially, because and I don't think you might get to that point, right? Just being able to force them with the finish line, because even alongside with their other tools like Sochi, right? Sochi, most commonly known as Swiss Army knife, right? This guy can play anything and everything and facilitate for his team, which I think is just a phenomenal role to be able to have, like considering how your team places their complete trust in you to be able to just perform no matter what you're being put on, right? I think that's what definitely does make this Immortals AOE roster kind of special, which is why Hypergiven prediction is gonna be 2-0, bro. Look, man, it was so good, all right, and they're one of, if not the most early game team we have in this just overall tournament. And early game versus trying to scale up to late game, right? It definitely does have its benefits and disadvantages. But if I am to be real, if you not necessarily cannot create advantage for yourself, right, going into the mid game, and you do fall far too behind early, then things get very, very tough. And I don't know how many fights Redbirds are going to be able to force against AOE. So I'll let it be for now, because I know this is where we all stand. So you know what? I'll do this. I'll give you all one last chance, considering everything we said. Io Payton, you standing firm and true on your prediction? It's gonna be 2-0, Giga Stop, nothing more?
Yep, I do root for Drew Dozer. I hope we have a Drew Dozer show and the guy, he can 1v9 and like maybe save it, but no, it's gonna be bad. I think there's just too much individual talent comparison, like too much individual talent gap. Winston is so insanely good, and Gluten Free Panda was he's only here because War Machine Hyper went to TSM, right? So it's gonna be kind of hard to win when that's like our jungle matchup. But Drew Dozer show. If we got a win condition, it's gonna be a Drew Dozer show. So
all right,
I'm rooting
respect. RMC.
I'm going to acknowledge that I'm scared right now, Rav, because the last time we had a full prediction for an IMT AOE win, it was last BGCQ #1. It was the first game of the group stages, and They did not win. That said, we haven't seen the caster predictions yet, and maybe one of them will save it. I'm going to be selfish. I'm not going to sack myself for the rest of the team. I'm not taking one for the rest of the team.
All right.
I'm staying with IMT.
All right. Okay. You know what? That's fine. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, and I'm glad we managed to get ours out there. I gave you all a chance to run it back. I gave you all an opportunity to perhaps maybe save yourself. That's fine. I'm going to stick true on mine. But we're not the only ones here today, right? We do, of course, have our casters ready and waiting to take us into this, dare I say, banger matchup between AOE and Redbird. It is going to be the one and only Smacks and Destructs coming at your faces. Let's see it, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ravishan. Looking sharp, by the way, brother. Welcome to the Cast and Desk. My name is Eric Deserex Beltran. Joining me on the desk is Sam Smacks Hyde. And Smacks, we have a fun one to start off the day, right? LCS-affiliated powerhouse, Immortals AOE, taking on one of the wildest teams in North American Amateur and Collegiate that squeezed off an amazing upset to get here, to be honest, in ISU's Redbirds.
Yeah, I can't believe that they're here. Talking about them, you know, they took down the Titans of Amateur wildcard as well to do it, to get to this point, and now playing against Immortals AOE. Really proud of Redbird, although the desk was alluding to our predictions. I think we're aligned with them, all things considered. I think Immortals are pretty favored here.
I do want to get into some of the fun things about this matchup that the desk was already talking about. I'm just going to shotgun straight to it. Drew Dozer is some of the most fun you could watch when it comes to League of Legends Amateur. I remember casting in Studio Luddy back in, I think it was like 2020. We had an intro video, and the first thing you hear, I think, was Culture Gibson just shouting out, "Drew Dozer!" And I just want to, I want to eventually come back and bring that call back to life. Because Drew Dozer and the Corkster, it is a wild champion. It is a wild player, and it's a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, and I mean, Corky did just get nerfed, as the desk said. I hope that he's still here, just for that sake, so we can bring that call back. Oh yeah, of course not. We know that this is a team that plays for late game, and Corky is still very, very strong in the late game. And we were talking about this before, too. As long as you have that package, you can bring the late game earlier and earlier and earlier and make those team fights really work for you.
Yeah, and, you know, with Drew Dozer on that Corky having the package, I just love the way RB put it. He can sandbag, but still carry in the mid game and late game as he scales up. But, you know, looking at the opposite side of the rift, that is a hard lane to do that against. Shochi has been someone who's been expanding, who's been growing, who's been showing a lot of potential.
And a lot of different champions, too, at that. So many different styles we saw in the last tournament and in the last open qualifier, too. He was playing enchanters, mages, assassins, whatever you want to classify Yasuo as. Everything was getting thrown in there. And I think that against this mid laner, for Drew Dozer, he's not really going to know what to expect when it comes to the champion pool, when it comes to the draft. It makes it a little harder to prepare for that late game scenario.
And then, you know, these tournaments aren't the only things that go off in North American Amateur and Collegiate. You know, you do have stuff like UPL. And when I talk about UPL, one of the names that comes to mind is going to be Anime Girl. Watching Anime Girl in the summer, in the fall, the outstanding performances we've seen, the top laner to beat when it came to the UPL, and now coached by Brandini, that is going to be quite the challenge for Squilliam over on the top side.
Yeah, that is definitely something where you know a little bit more of what to expect in that lane, because Anime Girl has really been crushing it on the tanks all year long on Immortals AOE. Regardless, he is no stranger to solo killing people in that top lane. I think in the early game, really across the board, but in that top lane especially too, it's going to be really dangerous for ISU, for the Redbirds, this team that really wants to scale up. They're against these guys that only want to play early game. They know exactly what they're going to do in early game. It's been a meme all year long that Winston will gank your lane at level 2 on Jarvan, and he's definitely no stranger to that.
All right, we are ready to head into draft Immortals AOE versus Redbird Esports. So, some interesting contentions I think are going to come along. You already see the Zillion ban coming out, taking that away from ISU. You know, nothing big there, targeting straight for tempos.
You gotta respect it. You gotta get that one out of there. It's true in solo queue, people target ban him there all the time, for better or for worse. He's just the late game king. I've said this a bunch of times. If Tempos could play League of Legends and go completely even for the first 20 minutes, and that's just how League of Legends worked, he'd be LCS level. He's one of the best late game support players that we have in all of North America, and Zilean is definitely a good example of that.
So it shows a lot of homework done, as Zilean's going to be bound away, Lulu bound away. So really focusing on the enchanters there, the support role for Immortals AOE. ISU focusing on the solo lanes as Gwen and Syndra get taken off the map.
Yeah, really targeting Anime Girl with that Syndra, or not that Syndra, the Gwen, excuse me, the other one. Anime Girl, that's really the only champion that we've seen him pilot very consistently that is not a tank. So with that Gwen ban, you're attacking that champion pool. You're also removing it from the jungle, which has been a real menace recently in the drafts. I've not really been enjoying Gwen in jungle. It's a little too strong.
So another ban away, going to take away the Jinx. This does leave Yen to possibly hover around this area if it does get left available, but Immortals, they're aware that pick is open, so they're just going to hover it for the time.
Yeah, as you can see in the middle of the screen, it is 12.4, so Zeri did just get quite a few hits to her kit. A lot less damage just across the board, and mainly that was targeting the Trinity Force Hurricane build. I'm still going to keep pushing the crit build. I do really like crit Zeri. It does a lot of damage. Regardless, Mortals are going to push away from that one and move over to this Aphelios. Meech has been known to play mainly this Aphelios and Jinx. Jinx, of course, banned away, so right away going to scoop that one up.
And as Aphelios, he's someone who can position very safely. Trevor knows when to roam out. You know, Meech ends up being this very low-death, high KDA player, and this Aphelios, if you can enable him around this draft, he will carry that mid-game, he will carry that late game for Immortals AOE. Now ISU, on the other hand, going to grab that Zeri right away. Yen was eyeballing the living daylights out of that, as well as Gluten-Free Panda taking away the Xin Zhao.
Zeri, very nerfed champion, still here. Just goes to show how broken she was before the nerfs, honestly. Deserex champion still pickable, still first pickable for the Redbirds. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Yen can do on this champion. And with Xin Zhao, too, this is a lot more early focused than what we're used to seeing from ISU. I'm really glad that they are actually putting some more bridge champions into their composition, because they know that Immortals AOE are going to try to pull some shenanigans very early on. This Olaf, no exception.
So Olaf locked in for Immortals AOE. The one champion I haven't seen on the Rift yet, at least on this draft yet, is Corki. I'm still waiting for that Corkster. We'll see if my dreams come true, as Immortals AOE are going to at least hover the Immortals for the time being. Trevor grabbing that one.
Wow.
Is a strong initiator, is a strong engager, and can dual roam out quite easily, going along with Winston to try and provide that extra pressure.
This is really interesting for Immortals, because usually you would think of Aphelios and Thresh as the main combination. It does look like they were really dropping the call out for Tempo, saying, hey, he's probably going to play a mage or an enchanter, so Leona's going to be good into that. No, it is Tempo's Thresh. So we are going to be seeing a lot more early agency on this bottom lane, especially. I think this matchup is really good for Thresh before Leona hits level 6, so you can actually prevent a lot of these early plays with things like the Dark Passage, saving Yen's Zeri, and the Flay denying the Zenith Blade.
And this is pretty nice for ISU so far, and the way they wanted to draft, because grabbing that Zeri was definitely a high priority for them. Getting the Xin Zhao is something that's very nice, because Winston is very, very capable on the champion. It's one of his most favorite champions to pick. As we do head into the second phase of the draft, to my misery, to my dismay, Immortals AOE take away the Corki Soraka band as well.
No Corki. Both of these bands attacking mid lane, funny enough. And continuing that also with the Ivern. Really trying to make sure that Immortals can't play any of these enchanters mid. Those are definitely the two premier ones. I'm not sure if they have any others at their disposal. Zilean also banned, because you got to remove that from Tempo, so can't select that one with Olaf. If Shochi wants to pull out another enchanter, there are other options. Things like Orianna is almost in that category from mid lane, so you can still bolster this Olaf with other picks.
So now just hovering the rise. We're waiting for that mid lane pick, as Shochi versus Drudozer is the matchup I'm most excited about after all the trash talk that these two have thrown between each other. Oh, it's going to be Gragas locked in for ISU.
The trash talk has been so funny as well, because for those of you who've been watching, you already know this, but there was a questionnaire that went out, and Shochi was asked what is one player he would beat 100% of the time, and he said Drudozer. So, I mean, we get to see him put his money where his mouth is this time. I know the rivalry goes both ways. I'm really excited for that matchup.
All right, so a Graves lock-in coming out from Immortals AOE. There's a good amount of front-loaded damage that can come out, especially if they do any setup for the dives, any setup for neutral objective control. Immortals AOE, one more pick to come.
Wow. All right. So it is still the Enchanter playstyle from mid lane. Shochi really trying to make sure this Olaf hurts. Make sure this Olaf gets in there and deals a lot of damage very early on. It's not the Orianna. It's not some other type of mage. And that does mean that Immortals AoE are lacking quite heavily in terms of magic damage. The Seraphine's not going to do a whole lot of that, especially if you do lean more into the Enchanter style. So that does mean that Squilliam playing this Gragas can just fully buy out all of the armor items in the shop.
All right, so finally locking it in the mid lane, it is going to be Cassiopeia coming in for Drudozer. Now, he has played this a little bit in the current year. It hasn't been something he's played a little bit too recently. The primary picks for him have been the Victor, which did get banned away, and the Corki, which did get banned away.
Yeah.
So kind of getting pushed back in his pool.
And it's very short range, too, for Redbirds. They've got Zeri, they've got Cassio. Those are their main sources of DPS. I am a bit concerned when they are against champions like Seraphine and Aphelios that they're going to get outranged just a bit. It will be a lot of reliance held by Squilliam and Tempos to actually get those engages off onto these two characters, because they're not very mobile, either of them. Seraphine and Aphelios are pretty big targets when it comes to things like the explosive cask. So for ISU, they have that snap decision making that is at their disposal to get rid of them. But other than that, it's going to be really hard to actually break through.
What sticks out to me, though, is Immortals AoE, they do have a comp that is looking to engage, that's looking to find fights. ISU have a comp that's pretty good at dealing with pressure from engages. You know, Petrifying Gaze, if you're engaging into it, it's something you have to dodge. You have to get that sidestep timing coming in. You get a lot of zone control with the box when you do have Thresh there. And, of course, the amount of disruption that you can do with both the Explosive Cask and the Crescent Guard work really well if they need to counter-engage.
Yeah, the Zenjiao Ultimate's going to be really tricky to deal with. I really like that you mentioned that, because a lot of these champions aren't really going to be following up very well with Olaf. You've got this Leona, which can get in range. That's kind of it, though. Felios in melee range doesn't end up working too well, especially when there's a Cassiopeia on the other team. So will be some really tight corridors in these team fights. Of course, this does a bit go out the window when we consider that Winston is playing this Olaf in the early game. He's got an Enchanter. This is the really big win condition for Immortals AoE, and if they do get that online earlier, then it doesn't really matter how tanky ISU is. They're probably going to die.
Oh, man, I don't want to see how disgusting these dives can get if Immortals AoE are able to get a lead. As I said, Trevor knows the times when to leave Meech by himself in that lane. He knows when it's a good time to roam out, because Meech rarely gets dived. He doesn't die too often over in that bottom lane. It's all about timing, and when Trevor leaves, he's duoing up with Winston. He's walking around with Winston, trying to set up something somewhere in the mid lane, somewhere in the top lane. That is going to be devastating to handle with in the mid game if Immortals AoE are able to get that early lead.
Interestingly, though, this Olaf for Winston isn't a champion that can gank very early on. It's not the level 2. You can't just red buff into a lane. Or at least I would hope not. I would hope that they don't go for that one really early. Just red buff into bottom lane. Maybe it works. But
why not? Why not? You know, you're technically an ADC. You can throw axes, right? Just keep queuing.
Just filled with rage, the Viking. Just running down the Seri. Maybe it'll work. Maybe just I should expect the unexpected when it comes to Immortals. They're no stranger to getting things done very early on, and they've got some really good components to do it. I really like the Leona in this game. It doesn't feel amazing in the direct 2v2 against Thresh, but as you said, Deserex, Trevor is not really about staying in this lane for this game especially. You're just trying to leave as soon as possible and link up with Olaf.
Now, the interesting thing about this one is the fact that Yen did get that Zeri, which he's been so hyped up on. He's been excited to play this champion. Tempos' champion pool works so well with a lot of what Yen brings to the map. So can he put his money where his mouth is? Is he that good? Is this the champion to beat? Is this going to lay Meech down? We're going to find out in a little bit as we hit the rift right now. Immortals AOE versus Redbird Esports. It begins now.
For Yen in this game, it's going to be up to him to match this huge late game team fighting god that we have in the amateur space. Meech has been completely crushing it all through this year, last year as well. Really, as long as we've been watching him, honestly, Meech has been a stellar performer in the bot lane role. So for Yen, to get to that late game scenario that we've seen him flourish in, is most recently against Wildcard, he was the main proponent in them winning that game in the late game. It would be a huge feat for him to accomplish in this first game.
And Meech is so comfortable working with Trevor, working together on Dig Mirage. And this is someone that Meech wanted as their support. They are a lane, they are a duo, they work very well together. Let's see if that challenge can come through.
I really like this lane also. Just you can tell that they're friends, you know? They've been playing together for so long. They're vouching for each other. They're trying to get into all these teams together, and for good reason. They really do work very, very well together. I have loved the coordination in the lane alone, as you're gonna get to see a bit of action very early on. Some ward combat already, as Trevor did go back to base for this sweeper.
Seeing this Zeri, I don't know if you saw the post that Jan did where he really got his stacks up and was just racing across the map like twice as fast as the Jinx. It is disgusting.
That was a crazy clip. You know, they got like 1 million views as well. Oh man, that was a wild time. Luckily, this champion's not nearly as strong as it was during those times.
It was 2 minutes. 2 minutes of fighting.
Oh, I know. You know what's crazy? He lost that game.
Oh. I thought the crazy part was the fact that he didn't get any of those kills.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've heard it said that Zeri with that build is kind of like a mosquito, you know, just flying around, buzzing and being annoying. Oh, nice one. But the never quite matching the DPS of some other marksmen.
And honestly, the auto attack does kind of look mosquito-ish. It's like pester-ish. Yes. There's so many little ones coming in. It reminds me a little bit of the machine gun Lulu days.
Yeah. That's true. You get all the pix little particles just flying at you a mile a minute. Oh man, that's it. That's exactly what Zeri is right now. I'm wondering if he actually is going to go for that same build that was toned down ever so slightly. Trinity Force does have some more HP on it, I believe, with the recent Bruiser item alteration, so slightly more durable, but less damage overall.
So an early slow state of game, just 3 minutes into this one, very early on. Just going for the full clears are both of these junglers. Ending on the bot side, it's going to be an early recall coming up from Winston. GFP easily able to secure the scuttle by himself. Getting a little bit of priority in the mid lane as well from Drudozer, who's been trying to shove in that wave quite a bit. Lots of it coming from the bot lane as Trevor doesn't realize that GFP's right there. Waiting for that 3-talent strike, does get stunned by the Shield of Daybreak, gets the knockup, pushed back in with the death sentence from Tempos. First blood goes the way of Yen.
That was a really clever usage of the Zeri W right there. He used it while he was riding the wall and got the big burst of damage and slow specifically. As you can see it right there, again, on top of Trevor. Super clever usage already in this game. First blood for Yen. This is getting me so excited for this player on this champion, man. Oh, I'm so ready.
All right, taking another look at how that was set up, because it was just a simple take of the Scuttle Crab, then heading bot lane before the ward was placed by Trevor.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this timing on the dash into the wall. This is one of the coolest Zeri techs. You can use it while you are dashing, so it guarantees the pop through the wall. As it does work similarly to like Bard Portal, if you've played a lot of that champion. Both the E and the W actually do, with the way that they interact with walls. So very nice utilization right now. And look at this, going directly for the boots. So will be a very, very fast Mosquito in this game.
Just saying, if you are an Immortals AOE fan and you remember the Circuit Qualifiers #1, that first blood is now starting to giving you a little bit of a heart palpitations. No one can forget the performance Winthrop was able to put up. Again, Winthrop were a top 4 team at the end of that. Redbirds are kind of rebuilding from what was a little bit of a rough start of the year due to more external complications, but they've been rebuilding quite well.
And for any Winthrop fans, I believe they're playing on the other stream today. So that's
I am a Winthrop fan.
Yeah.
I gotta
I
turn
am
on the
too
other
as
stream
well.
right now.
Yeah. Well, they're not on yet. They're in the second series. So
I'll commentate both. Don't stop me.
he will, guys. Believe him. He will do it. Oh man, caster extraordinaire can do 2 games at once. Right now, it kind of feels like Winston is farming 2 jungles at once, as he has just about double the CS of Gluten-Free Panda right now. Although, with that first gank and with the bot lane priority, getting more done on the Rift, especially if he can confirm this.
And now response coming out of AOE Immortals. Winston meets Trevor, looking to run interference here. Here comes Zenith Blade going right after GFP. It will be stolen away. Able to grab that one. Another kill comes in straight over to Winston, who's trying to lay the axes into the back of Yen. Yen can run no more as a double kill for Winston now. AOE Immortals, a great response. They say thank you for the leash as they grab the Drake and the 2 kills.
Oh, what a disaster there for Redbird Esports. They thought that they were strong in that lane, but before it was a 3v2. Now in the 3v3, you have Winston to worry about. He's so strong this early into the game, a full level up, and now with a double kill with the Infernal Drake, that's not going to stop anytime soon. This Olaf is on a rampage.
Terrifying state for Winston to get into early. 2-0, 6 minutes into this. An Infernal Drake picked up on top of that. Now we can take a look at how the EXP has been going, and I am staring at the jungle difference here. Level 6 is Winston. Level 4 is GFP, just barely hitting that level 5.
Oh, this is really scary if you're the Xin Zhao, because at this point you're a really strong early ganking champion, and you did give your team first blood. It went to a Zeri of all champions. You know, season 12 release, so you gotta imagine that's gonna go well. The early game also very strong for Olaf, and it's less so in the utility, it's less so in the crowd control that you provide, but all of this damage, there's no champion in the entire game that can match an Olaf that's this strong this early into the game. That's so scary.
It's one of the most terrifying things to duel. The lower he gets, the faster he attacks. He has the lifesteal he can proc on top of that. Now going to send this Olaf paired with the Graves is Anime Girl, going for the invade onto GFP, straight underneath the tower, knocking him to about half health. Another axe going to land on the backside. Anime Girl starting to get low here, has to back off, use collateral damage, but Squilliam is going to be able to pick up something on the back end of that. The trade going on between Squilliam and Winston, 1-for-1 top laner for jungle.
Yeah, flashing out there for Squilliam. Winston, no summoner spells to match, and even though he did use that Ragnarok, it's not quite enough to close the distance, even with the axes between 2 turrets, after all. Not going to want to continue that play. Much rather go over and fight the big purple bug. That one's at least not going to shoot you as hard as a turret.
So good start coming out of Immortals AOE thus far. For map control more than anything. The gold not really telling the story of the game. Just early kills coming in. That's nice and everything, but the plays have been constantly made by Immortals AOE.
Truly, for Immortals AOE, that play that we just saw top lane is about as much interaction that Anime Girl's probably going to get in this game. In any early game, we've seen him. He's a weak side warrior up there in the top lane. While he fulfills that role very well, it can get a little dry up there, you know? He's waiting around for some friends to arrive. Finally, they do, and he gets to interact there. Unfortunately, it leaves Squilliam with a kill, so that's maybe not the result he was looking for. Maybe they can get another return gank, and you can get the red buff as a consolation prize away from that Gragas.
There is that counter jungling coming out of GFP. Looking to try and return the favor back to Winston, who has been pretty quick in going from camp to camp and trying to outpace what GFP's been doing. Now coming into the camp of GFP, but Drew Dozer, he knows that counter jungling's been happening. He's going to take that for himself.
Yeah, it looks like a greedy play for Drew Dozer to take the Raptor camp away from his own jungler, but he knows that Winston and Shochi are coming because GFP was spending a lot of time taking the enemy camp, so I think it's a really good call from Drew Dozer, who, mind you, isn't actually that far up in this matchup against Seraphine. A lot of credit to Shochi for matching the CS of a very potent damage dealer in Drew Dozer's cast.
50 seconds until the next Drake is going to spawn. 10 minutes into this. Not really too much pressure on the towers themselves. We haven't seen too many plates be shed early. It's not the bloodiest of games. Both of these teams really filling each other out and really playing by their junglers more than anything else.
It's what we expect of these two teams, honestly, especially Immortals. I mean, I take that back a little bit. Redbird doesn't typically go for a lot of early game plays with their junglers. Hold on.
Oh, Drudozer going straight for the dive here. Gets charmed underneath the tower. Going to sink the fangs in and get the kill. Doesn't really care if he dies underneath the tower. The 1v1-1-4-1 is done.
And just before Drake, also, Drudozer will have teleport available. Not quite the empowered one, but can go directly to that turret and arrive for this second Drake fight. Encore cooldown a lot longer than Petrifying Gaze as well. A lot less enchanting that this Enchanter mid laner can do for the Winston's Olaf.
Nice right there. GFP straight to the punch when grabbing that scuttle. Enabling priority here for Redbird. As you said earlier, that teleport is available. Did get used by Drudozer to get to the mid lane, so more priority coming out of ISU as they will have their mid laner here. We'll have basically the entirety of their team here. Still looking to challenge. It's going to be Winston. 5 members strong. Redbird Esports are able to secure the Drake. Evening it up. Not going to challenge is going to be IMT, and can't really blame them for that one. They didn't get the inside track. They didn't find a way in. It was the safer call to just let it go.
And this play was brought to you by the volatility of Drudozer that he's presenting in mid lane. Seraphine's not really a champion that wants to do a lot early. Just throw those spells into the minion wave, clear them, and then walk away. You don't really have a lot of damage to spare onto your opposition. The only reason the Drudozer even died was because the turret was doing most of it, so Drudozer throwing that one in there. Ooh.
Oh, that is scary, and on the back end, just barely going to get the snare in on the GFP. Oh, when you see an Olaf running that fast, my heart just starts beating. Fight or flight. It just kicks in. I felt that for GFP.
Oh yeah, he has to get out of there. He does have ultimate and flash, but luckily for him, he doesn't have to use them because Winston acknowledges that those spells are available and likely would have led him to safety and Winston overcommitting. In the end, it is just a very scary moment in this horror movie for GFP as he goes and gets to catch his breath, farm some more camps.
Just get more movement speed.
Yeah.
Everything you can that puts a movement speed buff, and Olaf, 100 miles per hour. He's got the true damage, right? You don't need the damage. It's all right. Just go full speed.
Yeah, I mean, Deadman's play, he's got to upgrade his boots. He's got the magical ones too, so a little bit more there. He's using those boots to arrive up in top lane, matching the pressure of the Rift Herald. Actually, I'm not certain that this will crash.
Ooh, no.
Wow.
Not going to crash. A wasted Rift Herald coming out. It is going to be stopped quite easily, mind you. Now a play looking to be made from Winston over in the bottom lane. Easy Lantern will be able to thwart that, but a lot of pressure here on this bottom side. Coming out from IMT AOE. No Drake available. Not much to really pressure on this bottom side other than the plates.
Feels like it was a bit of a diversion on the Rift Herald. Send that top, Winston goes bot instead. See Drudozer moving throughout the jungle, but they're not satisfied with that target, knowing that he has Petrifying Gaze once more. Maybe waiting for another, oh, look at this. They were waiting for the blue buff to be here.
Oh no, and from two ends, a 3-man gank right onto Drudozer, demolishing him. Winston timing that out beautifully.
That's absolutely hilarious, Desera, because they know that he's going to take the blue buff. They're like, wait, we don't want to go right now. Just wait, and we'll get a blue buff with it as well. A 2-for-1 deal. Genius moves from Immortals AOE as they punish the mid.
And so Immortals AOE, interesting to put their priority down there. They played around the blue buff of all things, but it worked out quite well. Having not much to play around over on that top side. Now we do have a timer coming up for Rift Herald. Soon to spawn off the recalls, off the resets of IMT AOE, so good timing on them. They're also going to grab a tower in the top lane.
Anime Girl just doing some hull breaker shenanigans up top, taking that one all by his lonesome. You know what happens when you ping hull breaker in the chat, Desrex? Have you ever built that item?
No, what happens?
If you're not near anyone, it says, "I'm hunting alone."
Yeah, never mind. I have seen it.
It is hysterical. I absolutely love that item. Specifically for that. What it's doing to the top lane meta, maybe not so much. It is very oppressive at the moment, but that ping that you can do in the chat, hilarious.
It's all right. We excuse it for that alone. First to the punch will be Immortals AOE starting up. The Herald now in the mid lane. Shochi trying to get away from Drew Dozer. Hop over the wall. Here comes again, looking for that final mark. Will not get it onto Shochi. Now Trevor running away. Falls to just under half health. Drew Dozer barely able to get him on the back end. Now Redbird, they have their way in as they start chasing away Winston. Another axe comes through. He now has his Ragnarok completely burnt. Nothing left to really use here as he gets slowed down by the barrel of Squilliam. Has some backup from Anime Girl. Redbird, they can't get the kill. They're just going to back off, but look at this. Meech in the bot lane. He cashed in.
It does look like Redbird were trying to get some pressure in the river so they could take one of these objectives. Not satisfied with the Rift Herald, though, Deserex. They just want to get some more mid lane priority, perhaps to try to secure a second Drake for themselves. But as you said, Meech takes yet another structure, and we can see the aftermath of all of these plays. Even though Redbird is matching all of these skirmishes quite well, they are down quite heavily in terms of the gold. That's about 3,500. A lot thanks to these structure demolishing.
All right, now the Mountain Drake spawning in 5. Redbird Esports getting the first foot into this area. Trying to establish vision will be IMT AOE. Got a control ward there. Yen will clear that one away. No sweeper onto that ward. Just on the river bush. Still pushing away will be ISU. IMT can't seem to push their way in. They're finally going to lead with Trevor here. Split out will be Yen. He's on the flank, not with the group. Same thing with Squilliam, who teleports in on the back end. Will be able to join his squad, but 5-member strong is both. Now heading towards the mid lane. Going to push the tempo is going to be Anime Girl, who looks to just take the tower. And now, here comes Hunting alone. He's going to join this group, though, and now here comes the death sentence. Fox goes out, buys some time. Going golden is going to be Trevor, but look at the jump. It is going to be Winston. Winston gets dropped by Jude Drozer, and it's going to be a Drake picked up by Redbird. They're looking for more, though. Look at Yen go as he tries to stick and move, looking for the Qs, looking for the autos, looking for the marks. Here it comes. The cleanse is big. Yen will live to see another day, but Meech is still full health. You have to respect Meech, and he takes out Drew Dozer, but gets too close. Will fall in the process, and so will GFP. Hopping over the wall will be Yen and IMT AOE. They play it slowly, they play it carefully on a fight that was looking lost for just a second. Meech is able to bring it back.
Meech accepts the sacrifice deal, and he gives his life so that his entire team can take the team fight sweep. I want to take a moment to watch Winston in this team fight because he is the really strong Olaf in this game. He has a stride breaker. He's really big, but he commits to the Drake. He's not actually a part of this team fight. This is almost exclusively the damage from Meech and Shochi in this team fight. Meech, with all those chakrams, takes Yen to about half HP with one auto attack, and then from here on out, Shochi's healing and shielding keeps everyone afloat, and Meech goes into melee range, gets his team ready to take the sweep, and sweep they do.
A risky play out of Meech pays off big. The rest of the squad able to collapse onto Redbird Esports, taking down everyone but Yen. Now, Yen does have that Trinity Force completed. Has gotten that heal cut as well. Still in a pretty good spot. He has been performing decently on this area so far. Just when it comes to the map play, when it comes to a lot of these contestions towards the neutral objectives, IMT AOE just too good.
It is a bit of the downfall of Zeri Deserex. Her range can be an issue for her, especially against champions like this Aphelios, like this Seraphine. It's really tricky to actually play in the middle of the team fight. Get all of your lightning procs off. Rest in peace, Static Shiv. I'm hoping to see Yen get some more activation from the rest of the squad in the future, as Squilliam is in danger.
Squilliam, Anime Girl over the wall. A couple of buckshots onto the back of Squilliam. Loses about a third of his health as IMT AOE continue the pressure in the jungle of Redbird Esports. Oh, that is a weird one to say, Redbird Esports. Now getting the vision in much deeper onto this blue side while Meech continues to apply pressure. No towers available into this mid lane besides the inhibitor tower. Now the rotating coming in from IMT AOE as they head towards the top side, constantly pushing from lane to lane to lane, waiting for Redbird to make a misstep.
No mid lane turrets available for Redbird means your camps are no longer your camps. They belong to Olaf, they belong to Aphelios. They're not available to you as much as you try to push in. Let's see if they can actually make this happen.
Ragnarok used, but Tempos right there with the Lantern. Ragnarok going to be popped for nothing. Now trying to defend the tower will be Yen. Taking a bit of damage from Meech in the process. Gotta respect Meech. Whew. Yen losing half his health. Ooh, now Squilliam with the engage. Tries to get the body slam. Shochi too fast on the flash there. Explosive cast. Not going to be successful. Look at Drudozer. He is on the flank. On the further flank will be Anime Girl, who's trying to collapse onto this as well. Trevor comes in with the Zenith Blade. Locks down Drudozer. And there's the teleport going golden as Drudozer trying to buy time, but Shochi takes him down. Now Squilliam and the rest of Redbird will be on retreat as GFP gets lower and lower. Comes in with the charge, but gets dropped in the process. Anime Girl, buckshot on the back, goes after Squilliam. Looking to run away will be Yen. Gets a couple more Qs in, but 2 members have fallen on the side of Redbird Esports. Immortals AOE, they smell Baron.
There's always a bigger fish here, Desterux, and in this case, there's always a bigger flank. Drudozer thought he was clever with his teleport positioning, but then he gets locked in by the Graves and by the teleport as well from Shochi. There's nowhere to go, and this fight is completely split apart. We mentioned in the draft how clean of a disengage you can actually have with Xin Zhao and Gragas, but you just can't disengage from both fronts, especially not on this mountain rift where there's this big rock looming over you. You can't actually fight in this corridor. Redbird give up another team fight and also the Baron afterward.
Tough one right there. What if we flank them? Well, what if Anime Girl flanks your flank? Play after play coming out of Immortals AOE as the bigger brain showing up so far on the map for the Rift ISU. Now starting to hit the Rift towards the Drake as there's 5 seconds till this Mountain Drake hits the map. Not exactly getting the same priority that they were able to establish last time they contested for Drake. It's IMT AOE with this Baron buff who are pushing forward.
Here's the
Solar Flare comes out onto Tempos, not the target that Trevor was looking for. It's a good thing though. Solar Flare has a pretty low cooldown, so you can wait this out for the next fight if you don't get engaged on. Winston holding the line here as IMT AOE start to establish towards Drake. Now Winston goes in onto Squilliam. Gets bullied away just a bit as Squilliam trying to walk away from those axes that are diving into his backside as the Drake's going to be taken easily soloed by Meech and now looking for the engage. There's the Zenith Blade going deep. It's going to be Trevor. Winston follows with the Ragnarok and lays the axe right in the back of Drudozer. GFP falls as well. That's 3 down on the side of Redbird Esports. Make it 4. And Yen can only watch in horror as his base goes up in flames. Immortals AOE, game number 1 in their hands.
Definitely looks like it, Desterux. They've got over a minute's time left on this Baron. 20 seconds until the nearest ally for Yen to help defend this base. Anime Girl doesn't need to fight alone anymore. 5 kills on this Graves in that last team fight. He's ready to close out this game and take the series to match point.
What a performance coming out of AMT AOE. A lot of people see them as the favorites, and this is good reason why. Even with the pressure that ISU were able to apply in the early stage of this, IMT were always in the driver's seat, were always the one pretty much dictating the flow of combat.
I genuinely did really like the adaptations that Redbird made in this series because we all knew it, they knew it, Immortals knew it. This is a late game team that Redbird really thrives in, but they needed to throw some more in that early game to make sure that they didn't actually get completely torn apart from minute 1. I really did like what they showed to us very early on. Their skirmishes were top notch, but they let too much slip through the cracks. All these outer turrets being taken whenever they try to go for something. Feels like Immortals just had a much keener awareness of all the resources at their disposal.
All right, game number 1 in the books, but this is a best of 3 series. We are going to throw it over to a short break. When we return, Ravish and the analyst desk will be there to break down the series, the game you just witnessed.